It was at a young age that Brudos first discovered the fetish that would define him.
When Brudos was 5, he was just allowed to go and roam about and do what he wanted to do. So he was in a junkyard one day and he came across a pair of quite elaborate, shiny, high-heeled shoes. And he would have been fascinated by them because his mother dressed very conservatively. These weren't the kind of shoes that he would have seen her wearing. So they were something quite intriguing.
And develops, well, one almost called it an excitement about them, and indeed takes them home. His mother is very, very disapproving, and indeed so disapproving she burns them. Now, that is the genesis, in my mind, of what turned Jerry Brudos into a shoe fetishist. That single moment completely altered the trajectory of the rest of his life.
As the family settled in Oregon in the early 1950s, the now teenage Brudos' fascination with women's shoes took a more sinister turn.
So the obsession, which started off with shoes, then expanded to women's underwear. And he would steal women's underwear, and he would wear it, and he would play with it. And I think he starts to experience feelings of comfort and feelings of arousal. So these are things, I think, that are quite kind of confusing for him, but quite intriguing at the same time.
Brudos collected his high heels and underwear, the thefts of them, from clotheslines. Sneaking through neighborhoods. This was a challenge to him. And it's not about the sex, it's about power. What can I get away with?
Brudos' next twisted plan was to photograph a naked girl. Age 17, he lured one of his neighbors into his house and threatened her with a knife.
When she'd taken her clothes off under his orders, he took photographs of her. And I think at this point, he hadn't thought much beyond taking photographs, but he knows that he can control women. He knows he can get them to do what he wants them to do, and this sets a really dangerous precedent.
The girl didn't report Brudos to the police, which only spurred him on further. 8 months later, he escalated the intensity of his attacks.
He persuades a 17-year-old girl to get into his car on the pretext of giving her a lift home. He doesn't give her a lift home, he takes her to a remote spot and beats her, assaults her brutally because she refuses to take off all her clothes for him and let him photograph her.
This is somebody who's been fantasizing about the control that he has over women. This is somebody who's been able to get women to do what he wants before. And now he's got somebody who is not playing ball and he doesn't like it. So this violent reaction, it's not a particularly surprising one to me.
This time, Brudos didn't get away with it. A couple overheard the assault taking place and called the police. In the spring of 1956, instead of facing a prison sentence, Brudos was committed to Oregon State Hospital for psychiatric evaluation.
It's concluded that he's having what might be described as an aberrant adolescence, sexual deviation with fetishism. It's also suggested that there may be an element of schizophrenia in his condition.
It was mentioned at the time that he couldn't be rehabilitated, that he had a sociopathic issue that couldn't be rehabilitated.
But what you have now is the beginnings of a full-scale sexual predator. If you like, the genesis from the cocoon is beginning to emerge.
Despite the report suggesting he could not be rehabilitated, the 17-year-old was released after just 9 months in December 1956.
But Brudos hasn't really changed. What he wants Darcy to do is to do all the housework naked, or only wearing underwear, or only wearing a pair of high-heel shoes.
And that is typical of an abusive situation. It's typical of coercive control. He's got this much younger woman who is completely kind of under his command. And when he orders her to walk around naked at home or wearing lingerie, she does it. Because I think he has got such kind of influence over her in this relationship.
By 1967, the couple had welcomed a second child into the world, and Darcy had refused to continue dressing up for her husband. Jerry Brudos would have to go looking for his thrills elsewhere.
In May 1967, he's been stalking a woman, and he breaks into a house when she's asleep. Now, he's really there to steal her underwear, but sadly, she wakes up while he's in the midst of stealing, and he attacks her, rapes her, and flees. It's the action of a man who has lost control of his own capacities. On the surface, hard-working, family man, underneath, a cauldron of sexual desire, of fetish, of the desire to hurt women.
The 30-year-old shoe fetishist had taken his obsession to deadly extremes.
She crossed his path, he saw shoes, and he has to have her. And that was his modus operandi.
Linda Sarli's post-mortem revealed that not only had she been strangled by the killer, but her lifeless body had been experimented on.
After he killed Linda, he violates her body in a whole new way. So he puts hypodermic syringes at the sides of her ribs and attaches electrical nodes to them and tries to get her body kind of reanimated, essentially. This doesn't work, it fails. All that happens is that he burns her skin. But for me, this says that Brudos is an offender who will constantly be trying to improve and refine his offences. And he's an incredibly dangerous man at this point.
Women to him are expendable. Women to him are no more than a piece of gum that you're tired of and you throw away.
This is a man utterly out of control, fulfilling every dark fantasy that he ever had. He's mutilating a young woman, he's abducted, killed, and he's using her body as though it were a toy, a plaything. It's very hard to imagine a worse kind of depravity than that.
I asked Brudos about the remorse that he had for the victims, and he had no remorse whatsoever. They were expendable to him.
Brudos hated women. To make them feel terrified while they were still alive, to take their life and then to take parts of them off and then to keep them as sexual trophies. He clearly hated women with a passion, but it also sexually excited him that he could hurt women.
Brudos was a sexual predator who preyed not only on the women who happened to cross his path, but on the shoes they wore. His fetishism spiraled out of control and led to the most horrific murders. To kill 4 young women and gruesomely desecrate their bodies for no other reason than his own self-gratification makes Jerry Brudos one of the world's most evil killers.